Hello everyone, let's continue with discussion on Elaine Showalter's essay towards a feminist poetics. Students, in the previous session, we tried to get a clear understanding of what is feminism and what are the core concerns of feminist theory. We also had a brief discussion about Elaine Showalter as a feminist critic. And today in this session we will we will analyze the first section of this essay, which is considered to be a path-breaking article in feminist studies. So let's continue with the introduction of the essay and the contents of the first section of this essay. Students, this essay was published in 1979 and originally it was published in an anthology entitled Women's Writing and Writing About Women, edited by Mary Jacobs. And as far as the key concern or the core idea behind the writing of this essay is concerned, this essay is just designed or written to outline a poetics of feminist criticism to make the field more effective. And we can say that Elaine Showalter's essay is a significant document in terms of the development of an independent feminist theoretical framework, because when Elaine Showalter had been writing at that time, in that scenario, feminism appeared to face severe challenges from different directions. The important ones coming from its own diversified and somewhat scattered nature. So Elaine Showalter felt that there was need to give it a definite direction and a cohesive form in order to make it an effective instrument of women's expression. So in this way, we can say that this essay is an attempt to convey the importance of mapping the growth of feminism in order to ground it in a substantive theory. And now let's see what Elaine Showalter says in the first section. Students, Elaine Showalter begins by discussing two varieties of feminist criticism. At first place, she talks about role of women as a reader, that is termed as Feminist Critique by Elaine Showalter. And here in this principle or in this concept of women as reader, she just emphasizing the centrality of Women's Reading Act. And by centralizing the Women's Reading Act, Elaine Showalter points out the inherent weakness of the traditional way of reading, and it reveals the subversive role it can play in demystifying male-dominated discourse, because here woman is the consumer of male-produced literature, and she is reading it and she is just recording her responses. So the responses of women, the Women's Reading Act, just paved the path for the subversive role it can play in just denying the male-dominating discourse, and this is will pave the way for liberating creative forces in feminist reading. And we can say that recognizing the other voice is as much important for a proper interpretation of text as the dominant voice. So establishing female voice provides a countervailing force to the masculine voice. So in this way, in this feminist critique, a tremendous gap in the existing interpretive system is exposed. And it just gave a new perception to look at the role of women, a new awakening to the sexual codes. And the second category, which is discussed by Elaine Showalter, is based on the role of woman as a writer, that is also termed as gynocritique. She just coined this new term for the role of woman as a writer, and this principle of woman as writer places women in the same position that is traditionally occupied by male authors, whose viewpoints and whose portrayals of women have for long been responsible for shaping the social consciousness. And now it is no secret that women have faced untold problems in getting themselves published. Their creative talent have been associated with women's image as an inferior to man idea. You are all familiar that those who wish to write, they had to adopt masculine names. For example, Mary Evans, she wrote with the masculine pseudonym George Eliot. So first, here I would just like to one more reference that first this Elaine Showalter, she just planned to name this very concept as Georgics also, based on this very idea of that the women writers of that period wrote under the male pseudonym, as Mary Evans wrote with the name of George Eliot. So it was also planned to name as Georgics, but later on she used this term gynocritics for women as a writer. And this gynocritique, here woman is not a consumer of the male produced literature like feminist critique. She is the creator of meaning. She is writing about her own experiences, and this is mainly concerned with the psychodynamics of female creativity. We can say that according to feminist point of view, the world has missed a lot by suppressing women as writer. And besides, there is gross injustice as in deliberately creating such cultural or social conditions as would naturally act as detrimental to the growth of a free and fearless feminine point of view. So we'll just talk in detail about this concept of gynocritique. First, we will just have a discussion. We will have a discussion on the key ideas or the subjects which are covered under the concept of feminist critique. The feminist critique is concerned with or deals with the images and stereotype of women in literature, the omissions and misconceptions about women in criticism, the fissures, the gaps and the breaks in male constructed literary theory, and the exploitation and manipulation of the female audience, especially in popular culture and film. So these are the subjects which are covered or which are the core concern of feminist critique. But Elaine Showalter points out the problem with this feminist critique, which paves the way for to look at feminist critique as a gynocritique. So those problems are, the first one is that it is male oriented, because the meaning is created by male. The woman is only reading and responding to that meaning. So it was male oriented. So being male oriented, this critique has a tendency to naturalize women's victimization. And Elaine Showalter has just mentioned that this feminist critique is a sort of angry or loving fixation on male literature, and she just wants to move away from this fixation on male literature. So she just talks about another important phase, another important category or variety of feminist criticism, that is gynocritique. That is about the woman as a creator of meaning. She doesn't have any fixation on male literature. And this gynocritique or gynocritics is a term derived from French word la gynocritique, and this gynocritique provides a female framework for analysis of women's literature. Here, women is the creator, so the female framework is there, and its subjects, it includes the psychodynamics of female creativity, linguistics and the problem of a female language in literary text, the individual or collective female literary career, and above all, the newly visible world of female culture. That's what gynocritique wants to trace. The newly visible world of female culture, that how the women feel and think and how they express their own feelings and emotions and the responses towards the social structure, towards their social role. And in this essay, Elaine Showalter has just very precisely discussed the program of gynocritics in terms of these 4 steps. Number 1, it works with the aim to approach the female experience directly. Then second one, it just emphasizes to free oneself from the linear absolute of male history. And thirdly, it suggests to stop trying to fit women between the lines of the male tradition. And lastly, its special focus is on the nearly visible world of female literature. So, in brief, we can say, through the program of gynocritics, Elaine Showalter emphasized the need to reconstruct the past of the literature of women, to rediscover the scores of women writers who has been obscured by time. She is talking about one category of feminist criticism where the role of women as a reader is emphasized, but it doesn't mean that at that time women were not writing, they were writing. But now she feels that to get the complete experience or the complete picture of the role or reaction of women, there is the need to reconstruct the past of the literature of women. There is the need to rediscover the scores of women writers who has been obscured by time. And to be more precise, we can say, through the program of gynocritics or gynocritique, Elaine Showalter has just emphasized the need to establish the continuity of female tradition, and how she has tried to establish the continuity of female tradition, how she has traced the evolution of female tradition, we will discuss in our next video. Thank you.